Okay, so before we get started, I forgot to mention one thing that I think is important here in this slide. So remember I talked about everything extends object. Okay, so there are two specific methods that we use all the time that extend object, which means everybody has them, and we also all have the ability to override them when we want to. One is the toString method, which we've overridden before. So remember that makes it so that when we say system.out.print, whatever our object is, it won't print out the address. So the toString up here prints out the address or the reference. But anytime we extend it below, we can change the toString to print out the information that we want. The other one is dot equals. So I think I mentioned that I thought it was in comparable, the interface comparable, but that was incorrect. It is actually in the superclass object. So that means every class that we write has access to it, and we can all override that if we'd like. So like maybe, I don't know, people aren't really, I don't know, we wouldn't really say people are equal to each other, but maybe we would say two bank accounts are equal to each other if they have the same account ID. And so we could say, get account or account ID dot equals whatever it is in the parameter. So it's just good to know that those two methods are in object, and so we're overriding them whenever we rewrite them in our own classes. Okay, so what I did here was this. I opened a new project and I started bank account. So I coded bank account, and then we're going to code savings account and checking account, and we'll run the driver, and we're going to add some stuff to the driver. So inside of bank account, what I coded was this. I gave it an account number. I gave it a balance, just like we had before. Now, with these superclasses, we want to have what's called a no argument constructor here. So for the string for the no argument constructor, because that way we want to call that or create one in each of these. Okay. It's kind of like extra protection for us. So for account number, I put invalid account, and for balance, I put 0. And then here I took in num, so I said account num becomes num, balance becomes balance. Then I did make these private. I told you guys you could make it protected, and that would make it easier to use in these subclasses. It's totally fine if you would like to do that. It's not tested on the AP, so I wanted to kind of do the way that, use the coding that the AP would use. I just thought when I found out about protected that it was a cool thing that that wasn't covered in the AP that I wanted to teach you guys. So here, since these are private, we need to have, and it's probably good to have getter methods anyway. So public string get account num, so we can return account num, public double get balance, so we can return the balance, just so we can get these, and they aren't changed. Like we talked about it in ATM, these things are not changed. But if we want to see them, this is a good way to see them. Okay, here I put deposit. I made the return type for both of these void because we're just changing the balance, so we don't need to return anything. And then I put amount in both of these. So for deposit, I'm going to say balance plus equals amount. And for withdraw, I'm going to remember to say if amount is less than or equal to balance, then balance minus equals amount. Now I'm going to have this here because I don't want to take out more than I have, unless I have overdraft in this bank account. We don't have overdraft. Okay. Now remember, these, I forgot what I was going to say. These, I just want to be clear about these being void. Oh, the scope, I can use the word amount here and the word amount here because they have different scope. This scope, because I put amount here, the scope of it, so where it lives, is only within this method body. So this amount here is a different amount that only lives within this method body. So it's good to know that you can use those two and they don't mean the same thing. They're referring to itself right here only for this method, and it's referring to amount here only for this method. Can I also put a toString in here? So I am overriding the object method, and I put your account number is account num. You have a balance of balance. Okay. So in my savings account, I'm going to go back here, here, and we're going to look at savings account and see we have something that has an extra annual interest. So it's kind of nice. I do need to write my super constructors. So maybe I will make my own new instance variable for interest rate. It's going to be a double. Okay. And then I'm going to start with my constructors. I'm going to say public savings account. Now, remember, in my subclass, the super constructor has to come first. So I'm just going to say super. Oh, got the S. Super, and I'm done with. And it calls the first one, calls the constructor over here. Okay. And this one specifically. That one. But I do want to maybe set my interest rate so that I don't get some sort of strange error. Actually, I think it would default set it to 0 anyway, but this is just to be careful. And then I'm going to take public savings account. Now, because I'm going to use a super constructor over there, I have to remember to put a string, num for account num. I have to put a double val for account balance. And then I'm going to put another double rate for the interest rate. And how I'm going to instantiate this is this. I'm going to say super num val. Okay, that will call this constructor here, set these instance variables to num and val, and then I'm going to say interest rate becomes rate. Okay. Now, I don't really need to do anything else for this except for annual interest rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that annual interest rate is adding an interest rate to my account. So I'm going to say public, I'm going to make this void, and I'll call it annual interest rate. We'll assume it happens once a year. Okay. And so what's going to happen is we're going to take our balance. So remember, because we don't have this as protected, we have to call get balance. So how I'm going to do this is a little bit, I think I'm going to do it as a deposit here, which is sort of strange because we're adding money. Otherwise, I can't, this is the only thing that's going to change deposit. So I could come over here and change something else, change these to protected and such, but I'm not going to do that because it's not covered on the AP. So basically what happens is you get a very small deposit once a year. So I'm going to say super.deposit, and the amount I'm going to put in here is going to be the interest rate times get balance. What I'm doing is, again, I can't use balance because it's private, so I'm saying I'm going to take the interest rate, multiply it by the balance, and get deposited in. And that's it for savings account. So now for checking account, what I'm going to do is do some stuff here where I'm going to cut and paste a little bit, copy and paste. And I need to see what it has here. So it does not have any other instance variables. I did add one here, but it doesn't have any here. Maybe I'll add one for overdraft protection and withdraw, okay? It has a different withdraw. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to say private double overdraft. That's going to give me the amount that I can overdraft. And then I'm going to say, I want this to say checking account. Okay. It is going to call the super constructor, and I'm going to change this to overdraft. So my overdraft is first at 0. That's the default. Now here, I'm going to change this to checking. And I'm going to take everything the same, except this is going to be, I'll call it over. And so I'll still call the super constructor with the num and balance, but instead of having an interest rate here, I have overdraft, and I'm going to call this over. Now, everything else in here was the same except for our withdraw. So I want to make it void again. And then I'm going to say, so public void withdraw. Okay, so let's think about how withdraw works here. We want it to work if, kind of like this, right? So this says if the amount is less than or equal to balance, then balance minus equals amount. So, but we want it to work. So we can call this part super first, right? Because it'll do this if the amount is less than or equal to balance. But if it's not, we're going to have to figure something else out. So we can call, oh, and we want in here double amount. It has to be. And remember, in order to override, we have to have the same name and the same parameters. So we're going to say super amount. And then, let's see. We're going to think about this. So we're going to say if, well, let's see. If, maybe I don't want to say super amount first. Doesn't like amount either for some reason. Oh, because I just didn't say super dot withdraw. I have to call the actual method. Okay, so let's see. So what I'm going to do here is I want to withdraw if there is only, if there's an overdraft too. So I'm going to say if, maybe I'll say if overdraft equals 0. Then I'll say super dot withdraw amount. Else. Okay, I want to say I can't call balance because, see, it's going to change it to get balance. So how am I going to change that balance? Well, let's think about this. It's the problem with not having something protected. So let me think about this for a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is what I've seen before here, and I'm going to do one more method in here called public void set balance. So I'm going to say double amount becomes, so I'm going to say balance becomes, I'll say new amount to make it a little bit less confusing. So again, this workaround is just because we're not using the keyword protected, because it's not on the AP, and usually they'll have setter methods and getter methods. So actually, usually we have this guy all the way up here with our getter methods. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my checking account, and I'm going to say else. Use else if. Well, actually, I don't need to do that. I'm just going to say else. Okay. No, I think I do want to do else if. Else if get balance plus overdraft. So I'm going to say if amount is less than or equal to get balance plus overdraft. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to say, let I'm going to pause this for a minute. I shouldn't have said I'm going to